In this video, we're taking a look at GoCollect's hottest comics for the week of December 1st. Looks like newsstands are all the rage. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, we're taking a look at GoCollect's hottest comics for the week of December 1st. Now, for those who don't know, GoCollect puts out a bi-weekly article that analyzes the hottest selling comic books based on volume of sales and eBay sales data. So like I like to do every other Monday, let's take a look at the list and see what's trending in the market. But before I get into the books, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, help support the channel, do one of those things, I would appreciate it. But let's get into the books here today. And we got a kind of an interesting list. A lot of newsstands, a lot of indie stuff, and of course, I will put a link in the description in case you guys want to do further reading. This week's article is written by Cassandra Thomas. So again, if you want to read her analysis, definitely go check out the link. Coming in at the number 5 spot is actually going to be Nocterra, number 1, up 69 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the first issue of the series known as Nocterra, written by Scott Snyder and drawn by Tony Daniel, which came out earlier in this year of 2021. Now, Nocterra, definitely a post-apocalyptic kind of world, deals with a lot of demon stuff. A lot of people really love Scott Snyder's work. He had, big successful runs on sort of the death metal properties and things like that. So, if this is your shtick, I'm sure that people are really enjoying this series. And one of the reasons that this book got so hot recently is that it was announced that Netflix was actually going to be developing a Netflix property for this particular comic book. And it'll be interesting to see like how this kind of plays out onto, the silver screen, so to speak, or how it's going to manifest in Netflix. One of the things that I think is often not talked about enough with us as comic book speculators is that, when there are announcements for shows, it's important to remember that we're still quite a ways away from this actually sort of manifesting on our Netflix platforms at home. I mean, there's so much that goes on with regards to like development in the filmmaking world. I mean, it was just announced that this thing was optioned and that there was a deal being done, but that can mean a lot of different things. Just because Netflix options a property doesn't actually mean they're going to greenlight a pilot to be made. They still have to probably adapt the script into some kind of TV show form. They still have, to get a showrunner on. They still have to talk about casting. They have to actually want to fund a pilot. And then even if they do fund the pilot, it has to be good and they have to decide that they're going to take this to actual series. So, we're still quite a ways off with this one. And this one is, a surprise to me because of the fact that Nocterra, just came out this year. I'm sure people have enjoyed the series so far, but it's not like there's a huge following for this particular property. More so, I would argue that, there are a lot of fans of Scott Snyder in particular, and that's probably one of the reasons why Netflix was willing to take a chance on him for a series. But as we dig into the numbers for Nocterra, we'll see that there are 9.8s selling fair market value around the $110 range. Last sale around here was $99. So definitely, again, not a book that is absolutely, taking the world by storm in terms of its, value, but one that is definitely moving in the market because of the announcement of the comic book being optioned. All right, let's go on now to the next book here. And the next book is actually a really interesting one. This is Thor number 337, newsstand edition, up 74 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, of course, you guys know this is the first appearance of Beta Ray Bill. Now, of course, this is a book written by Walt Simonson in what many people regard as the best Thor run there is in all of Thor comic books, a book that came out in 1983. And there's been a lot of speculation recently that, Beta Ray Bill is destined to make his MCU debut in the Thor Love and Thunder movie. Of course, in the Thor Ragnarok film, there was an Easter egg of Beta Ray Bill. His face appeared in the Grandmaster's Contest of Champions building. So a lot of people thinking like, hey, the MCU acknowledged the fact that Beta Ray Bill exists. Maybe we're going to be getting some kind of Thor corpse. I mean, we already know that Natalie Portman, Jane Foster is going to be taking up Mjolnir. So it would make sense that if they want to go against Gore the God Butcher, they're going to need many Thors to team up, and Beta Ray Bill seems like a good candidate for that. Now, with regards to this book here, we're talking about the newsstand edition, and you've heard me made mention about the fact that, I personally don't necessarily value newsstands that much more than, direct comic books. I can understand the argument for people who like to chase newsstands, for books that are in the late 80s to 90s, because I think that, yes, I think you can make an argument that they're more rare. I think that there can be a case made for a book that came out in 1983 as to why you may want a newsstand edition. But to me, I kind of think that they're one and the same. But as we dig into the numbers for this one, we'll see that there are 9.8s selling fair market value around the $16.50 range. 30-day moving average actually has this book around $13.20. So maybe one of the reasons that, this book has gotten hot recently is because of the fact that it's had that little bit of a correction. So now people are wanting to jump back on this thing. At the 9.6, fair market value drops off to $4.25, but that's kind of, usual with books like this. The 9.8s definitely command much more of a premium if we're talking about copper and modern age. But when you go into eBay looking for this thing in the raw grade, typically speaking, you can find it being sold around the $120, $150 range or so. All right, let's go on now to the third hottest comic of the week. And the third hottest comic of the week is a really interesting one. This is Thor #6, second printing, up 76 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this, of course, is the second printing of the Donny Cates Thor run, where this particular issue featured the death of Galactus. Now, about a year ago, when Donny Cates took over Thor, and we had, the beginning of COVID and all the shutdowns, this particular run of Thor absolutely took the world by storm because everybody was rushing to want to get their hands on this book. People loved the story. There was a lot of speculative value out of it because there was so much murmuring over the Black Winter, a lot of mystery going on. It was like the Thor became the herald of Galactus. That was very, very exciting. And then it kind of culminated in issue #6 here, where Galactus ended up dying. And one of the visions that Thor had was that he saw Thanos wielding Mjolnir, as you can see right there, with all 6 Infinity Stones. In fact, we also see Thanos with the glove, I believe, of Thane, which is, I believe Thanos' son from the Infinity storyline some years back. So this was one of the images that we saw, kind of the post or apocalyptic end of the universe with Thanos standing over top of Thor. And I think one of the reasons why this book has gotten hot recently is that, Donny Cates made a tweet that was in reference to this moment, meaning that we were, maybe going to be getting the payoff soon. And this particular book right here is the second printing. What they did is they actually took that splash page inside the comic book and put it here on the cover. And this image right here that you see of Thanos is the one that people got really, really excited about. Which kind of brings up another point in the conversation of, let me know what you guys think about, second printings, especially in this new kind of modern era where we have things like, we got like the third printing of the first appearance of Null where he's on the cover, things like that, where it's like, if a later printing has a better cover, do we value that printing more than the first print? Let me know what you guys think in the comments for this one, because I think this one is kind of one of those cases and it's really, really interesting in that regard. But as we dig into the numbers for this one, we'll see, it's not an expensive book. It is a modern one. We see 9.8's fair market value moving around the $102 range. Last sale was actually for $125. And when I go into eBay looking for this thing, typically speaking, you can find this book for sitting around that $15, $20 range or so. All right, let's go on now to the second hottest comic of the week. And the second hottest comic of the week is one that has been on all of the hot lists recently. And this one here is Avengers #19, up 77 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this, of course, is the first appearance of the character known as the Swordsman. Now, we all know that Hawkeye is currently playing on Disney+, and I think this is not a spoiler to say that Tony Dalton is an actor who was cast as the Swordsman. He is actually currently in the show. He is holding one sword that is in the universe that, already gave a nod to the fact that he would be playing the Swordsman, and that's one of the reasons that this book has gotten really hot recently. And just as a little bit of a sidebar, because I had made a video a couple weeks back talking about how all the hot lists are made in the comic book market. And one thing I think is interesting about this book right here, Avengers 19, is that it's actually on all the respective hot lists. We've seen it on Key Collector, we've seen it on Cover Price, and now we're seeing it right here on the Go Collect article. And that goes to show that really this is one of the books that has been moving in the market a lot. And I think it's a really good book. Overall, this is a one that I already have. Of course, I'm doing my Avengers run, so I was always going to have it. But I like the character of the Swordsman. He's definitely a little more, tertiary Avenger, but at the same time, he's had a long history in Marvel comic books. I actually believe that this is a character that is probably going to stay around at least for a little while in the MCU. I think it's very possible that at the end of the Hawkeye show, we have a Julia Louis-Dreyfus scene recruiting the Swordsman for the team. So I think that this book is really interesting overall. It's a Silver Age book. It's always going to have some kind of value, but it is definitely seeing its peak right now because of the excitement of the swordsman character in the Hawkeye show. And as we dig into the numbers with this one, we'll see that there are 9.8s, very few though, only 4 on the census. Fair market value sitting around the $9,750 range, but we can see here in the 9.4, this is a better way to get a vibe of how this book is moving. Fair market value around the $1,100 range, but if we look at the 30-day moving average, we can see that it's $1,825. So definitely, going up about 50% in value, 75% in value or so. But when I go into eBay looking for this thing in the raw grade, typically speaking, you're going to find this thing sitting around that $100, $120, $150 range or so. All right, and let's go on now to the hottest comic of the week. And the hottest comic of the week is one that always shows up on this list because it is so popular. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 194, up 87 spots, newsstand edition. And what is the significance of this? Well, of course, you guys know this is the first appearance of the character known as Black Cat. Now, like I already mentioned, this is a book that has appeared on this list many, many, many times. It's appeared on other hot lists. It's always a book that's hot in the market. It's always a book that people are speculating on, and for good reason, because it's been so, it's one of the worst kept secrets that Black Cat is a character that is maybe going to be coming in the Sonyverse at some point in the future. She's a famous character within the Spider-Man universe. She's a character that, hasn't been done on screen yet, so it would make a lot of sense to sort of bring her into the limelight of pop culture. And this is a great book. I mean, anyone who is a Spider-Man fan, I feel like is also a Black Cat fan. And she's been a big part of a lot of great Spider-Man stories. I mean, she really is sort of the Catwoman to the Spider-Man's universe here. And I think one of the reasons why this book has gotten hot, as far as this last week is concerned, is that as Cassandra points out in the article, with the new Morbius trailer, we got a couple Easter eggs that were really interesting. One of those Easter eggs pointed to Rhino running amok, and there was a newspaper article that had a headline talking about Rhino, and then the other newspaper article that had another headline actually made mention of Black Cat. It said Black Cat, friend or foe, question mark. So it was really interesting to see that, people are out there, they're finding those Easter eggs in the trailers. Again, that doesn't necessarily confirm anything, but the fact that Sony is actually acknowledging characters like Rhino and Black Cat definitely should suggest to us, these people are actually thinking about these characters. They may want to do something with them in the future. They may want to bring them onto the screen. And when they do, I really do believe that this book right here is absolutely going to be going to the moon. Now, again, this is the newsstand edition that we're talking about, a book that came out in the early 80s. And for that reason, I personally don't think that it's too big of a deal, but this one does command a little bit of a premium. And as we dig into the numbers, we'll see that there are 9.8 fair market value sitting around the $92,800,000 range, which is obviously a real number based on Go Collect's data here. No, of course not. This is ridiculous that it says 92 million for a 9.8, but that's okay because we can look at the values at the 9.6. Fair market value sitting around the $2,600 range, although I don't know if this number is too accurate because if we go into the last couple sales, we can see there's a $1,600 one, there's a $1,500 runs, which I would say that that's a lot more accurate for a book like this. But when you go onto eBay looking for this thing in the raw grade, typically speaking, you're going to find it sitting around that $200, $225 range or so. Well, that is all I have for this video. Those were the 5 hottest comics for Go Collect's hottest comics for the week of December 1st. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys have any of these books? Anyways, drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next video.